the idea that it was Carrie's brother. 2 weeks later, the girls invited Ben along to a casual dinner, and in the middle of the meal, Erin suddenly asked Carrie a question that would change their lives.
So at dinner, Ben was talking about his birthday party, and I said, speaking of birthdays, Carrie, tell me about this brother you have. And she started telling me the story.
So I told how for 11 years I had searched and how it was something that I was just obsessed with finding. And as I'm telling the story, Ben was sitting across from me nodding his head. And I looked at him and he goes, yeah, I know what you mean. You know, I was actually adopted from Florida. And we all thought, like, wow, what an amazing coincidence.
And when it came around to her saying when his birthday was, he said, that's my birthday.
How could he be saying those words, which were the birth date that I knew was my brother's? And I remember trying to discount it by saying, well, my brother's Jewish, so. And Ben's face just kind of like, you know, and he said, I was adopted from a Jewish adoption agency. And that's when stuff began to get really creepy.
What did you think?
I don't know. I was still under the impression that, well, this is just some crazy series of coincidences.
I was in shock. I think I said, oh my God, you guys kind of look alike. I'm thinking, do we look alike?
And so then I started thinking, well, maybe Ben is like a crazy person, and somehow he's found my information on the internet. And I said, I'm not going to tell him anything else. I'm going to let him give me the information that he can get.
The next morning, Ben started to fill in the blanks. His birthplace and the name of the agency that had handled his adoption both confirmed Carrie's research, all except one thing.
The information that I had gotten from my father was that my birth father was an oceanographer, that my birth mother was working in the beauty industry at the time.
And I went, well, I said, you know, my dad was a surfer, but I thought maybe that was the thing that was going to prove it not to be so.
On the phone, Carrie told her father what had happened.
And I said, you know, everything has matched up except this one thing. And my dad got really quiet.
Because I knew Isla at that time was studying to be a hairstylist. And my plan at the time was to be an oceanographer. Yeah, I said, well, this has to be, you know.
My stomach just kind of like turned over at that point, and I thought, oh my God.
The way it happened, it was just like God calling.
Now, the only one who didn't know the amazing news was Isla, who had been away on a trip to Asia. With Ben at her side, Carrie called her the night she returned.
And I just said, Carrie, if this doesn't have the outcome that I want, stop. Because I can't take it. She said, Mom, just wait. And she said, talk to your son. Your son is here. Say hello to your son.
I just picked the phone up and said, hi, Mom.
And I heard my son's voice for the first time in my life.
The children told her every detail of how fate had brought them together. If there had been any doubt in Isla's mind, it vanished when Ben told her the words written on his adoption papers.
All he knew was the mother was a hairstylist and the father was an oceanographer. I said, Carrie, I wrote that. Oh, Isla. That was my crumb in the forest. And even though everybody told me not to write that, I did it. I made up something. And I knew that that was my boy.
You flew to San Francisco.
I did.
And Ben was at the airport.
He was.
I watched as Carrie walked up and greeted her and kind of waited for the right moment and just kind of walked out from behind a pole and just watched her stand there and look at me.
I looked over and I saw this young man and I saw my face in him. And I did tell him I waited 34 years to touch you. I saw you in the nursery and they wouldn't let me touch you. And I know I walked up to him ever so slowly, and I put out my hand, and I touched his face. And it was exquisite to touch my baby.
By last New Year's, the whole family was together. DNA tests had proved beyond a shadow of a doubt that Ben was Carrie's brother.
Do you feel that Ben is your son?
He's my blood son, and I feel really close to him. You know, I think his father is the man that raised him.
Very honest of you.
I think more so he's Carrie's brother. I think that's the relationship that's important.
I just know how bad I wanted it for so long and how much I knew. I never once doubted. I always knew I was going to find him, always.
There are remarkable similarities between the two of them. They both have the same kind of cars. They both love motorcycles, and they both have the same peculiar sense of humor, which is wonderful.
And they both love you.
They both love me, and I love them both so.